Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with William McKnight, the president of McKnight Consulting Group, who provides the strategy and implementation to make data a competitive asset. Welcome to the call, William.
Thank you, Malcolm. Great to be here.
William, you grew your company's revenue from $372,000 in 2014 to $2.2 million in 2017, a 492% increase. Before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so companies increasingly are realizing that information is an important asset to their business, and it informs just about everything that they do. Every application is based on data. Every strategic objective has data as a strong component of it, especially as we go forward into the years to come, when data is going to be the basis for artificial intelligence. Obviously, now it's the basis for a lot of reporting, but it's also the basis for analytics, which is where leading companies are going with their business and with everything about their business. So we bring that discipline of data, and we handle the data layer for our clients, which means historically we've put that data into a lot of data warehouses, but in the past decade, we've turned our attention to building data lakes, building master data management environments, building Hadoop clusters or big data clusters. So it's capturing all the data within the business and then some, because we're bringing in also third-party data, and we're putting this data to work in the business in places where people can access it when they need it, and also so the data is working behind the scenes to generate what that business should be doing next, whether it's in their promotions, in their product development, in their supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. It really informs everything about the business. So as this has become a strategic objective of the company, and that is to get their data under control, we've stepped into that fray and really done a great job over the years with a lot of Global 2000 clients. We bring a multidisciplinary approach. We bring people that can do it all and can be flexible as you need to be today, and move in many different directions with many different disciplines as the needs present themselves at the client. So it's a lot of experience. It's a lot of knowledge, leadership, and that sort of thing that we bring. And but I think all that being said, the bottom line differentiator is that we really get things done inside a business. And that doesn't mean just standing up a technical environment with data. It means getting people to use it. It means organizational change management. It means driving to the bottom line of the business all the way, not just stopping once we've built the data. So really getting that data completely embedded inside the business and put to work is one of the things that we do.
Okay. Now, how do you differ from your competitors who do something similarly?
So, well, there are large competitors that have a different approach than a boutique like us, right? So the larger competitors, which we all know their names, they're everywhere, and they do a great job at what they do. But when push comes to shove and you really need to get things done, you got to look at the people that you're getting and making sure that you're getting great value from those people and getting the real knowledge and really people that are in the shoes of your customers and on the side of your customer when it comes to meeting the business objectives. So we don't come in with a let's back up the bus kind of an approach and here we all come on day one. We want to set the methodology, set the architecture, set the tool direction, etc., in place with a few key people with that client first. And those key people are going to be people like myself that are very experienced, very knowledgeable about what the industry has to offer. We bring a lot of ideas because we have a lot of experience and we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we've dragged the good forward from all our other clients, to this client, and we put those things in place. And so that's a different approach than to have a lot of people coming in that may or may not have the right levels of experience or be in the right mindset to handle a client effectively. And down in the boutiques, again, we just really get things done and we handle the whole the whole complete aspect of getting data activated inside an organization. And this stems from, I was an IT vice president before I started the consultancy. So I've dealt with the budgets, I've dealt with the culture, I've dealt with the politics, if you will, of an organization, and I know what it takes to really get things done. And there's a knock-on effect in all of our projects from that experience that I have, and I attract people into the concept here that are like-minded and also have the same kinds of experiences. So you can be assured that we're not going down a black hole path here with our clients. We're doing something that is going to work. And,
right.
It's very important to set the direction effectively early on, get the right tools, get the right architecture, get the right methodology, get the right people in place, because if you don't, you're going to pay that price. You're going to pay it for a long time, and you may not even know it, but eventually that stuff does get smoked out. I should know because I come in behind a lot of those projects where they weren't exactly firing on all cylinders, and they do get smoked out. And
right.
So I don't want that to happen with our stuff. So we try to do it right the first time.
Okay. Now you grew your business pretty rapidly, 372,000 in 2014 to 2.2 million in 2017, a pretty big increase, almost 500% increase over 3 years. Can you share what the three biggest drivers were of your sales growth over those 3 years?
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly what the numbers are. I guess you got them there. But, it's really, I was just began to turn my attention from being a solo independent operator to leveraging myself through my network and growing up the company a bit. So that was really the big driver. Is I've done this before, by the way. I back in, when was it? When was it now? Before the year 2000, I began a consultancy, and I sold it in 2005, and I had done the same thing. I mean, it's just history repeating itself, except now the technologies are much different, of course, and the approaches are much different. They're much more efficient, and data is that much more important today to companies. So it's a great space I'm in. I'd encourage everybody to think about data and their relationship to data and doing a great job with their data. And that's the discipline that we bring. So it's really the growth of data, turning my attention from solo independent operator to running a practice again. And so, we're built up a bit now. We're doing it that way again. And I couldn't be happier.
Okay. So one was that you leverage your personal network. And then the second one would be transforming your company from a solo operator to more of a practice with a team behind you or with you. And the third one is the growth of data. Would you say those are the three drivers?
So that sounds good. That sounds good.
Okay. All right. Can we talk a little bit more about leveraging your network? Is this an existing network that you had from your previous career, or is this a network that you nurtured and grew? You proactively sought out people and developed a relationship over time. Can you talk a little bit more about how you leveraged your network?
Well, I've been in data my whole career, so that's given me, so many different opportunities. I've had so many different experiences. No 2 months are the same in my business. And 1 month I might be working on analyst reports and benchmarks and white papers and webinars and stuff like that with my vendor clients. And another month I might be heads down with a client in insurance or banking or healthcare or some such thing, and working on their data strategy. So these two sides of me work together very well, because the one side, let's say the vendor side, that informs the client side very well, because I'm getting leading edge stuff. I'm learning what the vendors have to offer in depth, and I bring that to bear on my clients. And my clients are giving me the real world experience where the pedal meets the metal. And I'm bringing that back to bear in my vendor work, because I'm giving them the real world experience that they don't have. They're building products and they want to get it sold, right? But you have to sell it out there in the real world, which is sometimes the perception is different than the reality. So I bring that to bear, make the two worlds work together.
Right. And I see how both sides would appreciate that, right? The vendors appreciate
Absolutely.
hearing what real world experiences there are with technology or with their product and service, and vice versa. Clients like to hear what's
Absolutely.
out there that's changing. So yeah, it's a nice spot to be in. So good. And when you say that you been in data all your life, can you give a little bit more details on that? Like, I know, there's been a common phrase of big data,
Yeah.
but other than big data, I mean, how else can it be categorized? Is there small data, enormous data? What are the categories of data?
Well, I tell you, this industry has not done a great job at customizing, or I should say standardizing its definitions and its terminology. So one of the things about working with all the vendors is all the different terminology that they bring to bear, and they want us to use out there in the real world. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yes, you've been hearing about big data. We've all been hearing about big data. I think it's a real thing. I think it's a real competitive differentiator, not a bunch of fluff. It's data. It's in a lot of ways, we want to treat it like the data that we've always had. And we've always thought we were working on big data. It's just that we've taken it to another level now with all the clickstream off the internet, all the sensor reads in our supply chain network, capturing, being able now, as opposed to 5 years ago, now being able to capture every voice, voicemail, if you will, every email, everything, because we have the capability now to store it all cheaply, relatively speaking. And now we also are growing our data science out there to actually deal with that data. And so what I like to say is that the depth of data to which the client can actually go and make sense out of that and turn that into, real business, that's a real competitor there. That is what is going to win the day as we go into the next decade. So you have to be a data competitor in order to stand out. And really, in order to hold serve right now, you've got to be a data competitor. You've got to get your data act together. We have a maturity model for data, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's very multifaceted. But I like to say that everybody needs to be at a 3 now, or they need to be sprinting to get to that 3 point. And some of you need to be at a 4. Right. And by the way, the criteria keeps changing. So next year, my 4 is going to be a 3, my 3 is going to be a 2, and you've got to keep going. And by the way, you can't skip. You can't go from a 1 to a 5. You have to go through the process of 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we have that in mind. We've learned the steps from our clients. It's not a linear model, but there are certain hallmarks of being in the different levels. And sure, we push our clients up to the next level as appropriate for them.
Okay. And when you're talking about the idea of big data, about how there's more data out there and how it's simpler to store, less costly to store, another aspect that just came to light to me more recently is just to the extent that our data is being sold, right? I wasn't aware until recently that and I'm sure that they've been doing this for a long time, but they don't really talk about it. Yeah. I wasn't aware until recently to the extent that my cell phone carrier sells my data.
Yeah. We're a little bit of the Wild West here in the United States. This doesn't happen quite as much in Europe. But it's all because it's all because of data science, and when we can learn how to manipulate that data and turn it into business gain, and right, that's what we're doing. And for a lot of companies, growth has leveled off in terms of whatever it is they do, but they have this great asset of their data, you right, know. And right, you bring up telecom. That's a great example. And obviously a lot of internet properties are great examples of this as well. So,
well, the internet ones are a little bit more obvious about it. If they're providing me a service for free, yeah, of course I know they're selling my data, right? That's how they pay the bills. But when I learned that my cell phone carrier is selling information, you might say that it's obfuscated, it's not personally identifiable, and so on, right? But they're selling information of where some users are using their phone and what sites they're visiting and so on in aggregate, right? It's a bit of a surprise, and a little bit uncomfortable as well.
A little unnerving, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's all in the fine print.
It is, no doubt.
It's all legal. We can talk about the ethics of it,
yep,
and we will. I believe we will as we go forward. Now, Europe has regulations now, which you may have heard of GDPR.
Yes.
That something like that could be coming our way, and I hope it is, because as a consumer, I like the fact that I have more control over my data. Now, what GDPR is for everybody else is, in the European Union, citizens of the European Union have rights over their data, and they have the right, for example, to be completely erased from a company's database everywhere they are. And as they leave the company, the company has to be able to keep data that it needs to sustain itself and keep operating, of course. But all this superfluous data, all the detailed data, they have the right to erase that. And there's a lot more going on in GDPR, but it's all on the side of the consumer.
Yeah,
and we don't have that here. But a lot of companies now are trying to get their data cataloged completely in the enterprise so that they can react to that day, so it doesn't bring the company to its knees, when something like that happens.
Yeah, we can. That topic can actually be a totally separate interview.
Yeah,
but going back to your growth drivers. Okay, so the first one, you leverage your network from your career of being in data, and the second one, you transform your business from a solo practitioner to more of a practice with a team. Can you talk a little bit more about that transition?
I mean, I look at projects kind of one by one, and will I enjoy it? At this point, and so that just sort of led me to, hey, I want more leverage, and I could talk about when this happened back in around the year 2000 for me as well. I mean, it was the same thing. I just wanted more leverage, wanted to touch more clients, and was opening myself up, I guess, a little bit more to trust certain individuals that I have longstanding relationships with that I know will do a great job with the client. And in some cases, obviously, they're going to do a better job than me because of their availability and their experiences. So it's all about running the business. I enjoy running the business. No problem with that aspect of it. I do that a lot on a day-to-day basis. You might say that some days I have to run the business. I'm not out there with clients. It's not as fun, but I'm doing it, and I enjoy that too. So now, I just look at it that way.
Right now, you have a team now of people who work with you. Now, are they sitting with you in your office in Plano, Texas, or do you have the remote workforce model?
Well, hopefully they're not sitting with me, because then they're not out with their clients, with our clients. So actually, they're out with clients for the most part, and doing
on-site typically.
On-site typically. And when they're not, they may be at their homes recovering, as the case may be, or doing some additional work there. But we do a lot on site. A lot of our work is strategic. It requires some face-to-face, and it requires meeting with a lot of people. It's just best served in person. We're not exclusively on site, of course, but we're not one of these offshore models where we're doing work that programmers can do off a spec. We're thinking for our clients. We're a strategic firm, so that does require a lot of in-person. I do a lot of it, of course, but so do my people.
Right. Okay. And your people, are they based? Are they living in Plano, Texas, or because you say that they're on site often, so theoretically they can live anywhere and they just hop on a plane and fly to where their clients are and live in a hotel for a while? Yeah,
I mean, one of the things I've always said about this business is, I've been consulting now for 20 years. So, one thing I've always said is, I may or may not be the very best at it, but I've become very good at it just because I've been willing to travel and willing to do what it takes to have the experiences that I've had. And that has set me apart. So that willingness is very important for consultants. So our consultants are all over.
Right.
Of course, we prefer the less miles in the air, the better. Sure. But inevitably, clients want the best, and they're willing, and we're willing. We enjoy the experiences that we have with clients, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, I remember in my business school days, one of the major consulting firms, right? Their thing was, you can live anywhere you want as long as you're near an airport. That was their thing.
I'm sorry, but that still sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. So the third driver of your business, the growth of data. It sounds like you're in the right company in the right place, right? Because the as you mentioned before, the access to data, the utilization of data, the computational power to analyze the data has just been growing and allowing businesses to better monetize it, and you're just able to ride that wave. Would you say that's a correct assessment?
Well, that's right. And to make a long, boring story short, I started my career at IBM, and I interviewed in 4 different places on that day, and they said I could have, whichever one I wanted, and I didn't know one from the other. But the one I picked was called DB2, and that's a prominent database product. And I randomly picked very well because that started my career in data, and I've stayed with it ever since. Of course, the industry has moved. We've moved so far from where we were, but DB2 and those databases, people may have heard of Oracle or Teradata or SQL Server.
Yep.
They're still they're so prevalent throughout organizations still. Of course, they've come a long way, but the point is that it's still all about data. And if anything, it's much more about data than ever before. So, we've enjoyed riding that wave, but we haven't just rode the wave. We've also led that wave quite a bit with our knowledge leadership and our thoughts and our experiences, and putting them out there, and doing a lot of speaking, writing about it, and moving the industry along in that way.
Right. Now, a classic, maybe not classic, but a well popularized story of big data usage was Target analyzing their customer buying behavior and sending a flyer to a family's home addressed to their daughter who had signed up for their red card or loyalty card, and within it, it has all the discount coupons for people who are expecting a child, right? And the guy got really upset that Target was sending them this stuff for their high school kid. And then later on, he went back to the Target store and apologized, because it turns out his daughter was pregnant, and that Target's big data analysis was quite spot on, determining that by what she was purchasing. To what degree is that happening today, but perhaps a bit more subtly, because that was a little bit of a PR disaster to a small degree for Target as well?
Yeah, well, I don't think it would be the same PR disaster today, because we're more used to the fact that companies do these things, and they may or may not be right, but more often than not, they're getting it right. But absolutely, things are going in that direction in a hard way, and not only is our companies collecting now and have the ability now to collect every piece of data. So if you're walking through the store, they can map your journey now if you have your phone on, that sort of thing. But we're getting to the point, or we will get to the point, I think, in the next few years, where our bio data will be also up for exchange in the marketplace. And that, if you think about that, that's really where our next actions are coming from. And all this collection of data, what is it for? It is for understanding the future, predicting the future accurately. And then once a company can predict the future accurately, it wants to get in front of that future and steer it towards what it wants you to be doing in that future for them, of course. But biodata, that's the real truth. That dictates how you're going to respond to different events. Now, of course, everything's multifaceted. No two events are ever the same exactly. But just as we've done with analytics, we're going to be able to do that with biodata, and we're going to be able to very, very accurately predict with just a little bit of data how customers are going to behave in certain situations and get in front of that. So that's the future.
Right. Now, for the kind of data work you do, how big does a business have to be to have essentially the budget and the cash flow and the technology to do the data analysis and monetize that data?
Well, that's a great question. I work with some startups, but startups today are not like startups of yesteryear. Startups today are very data centric,
and they're well funded too, right?
Yeah, well, some they all would like to be, but you better have a data story if you want to be. You better have an artificial intelligence story if you want to be. funded well today.
But I mean, there has to be some minimum level of investment required to collect, store, and analyze the data, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is consequently, some of these startups they're big data companies, even though they're not so big. But in the enterprise, in the more traditional companies, a lot of the ones that I work with are big. They're big because they have big complex problems, and that's what attracts them to people like me that can solve those big complex problems. So we work kind of upper mid-market through the Global 2000. But these things we're talking about here, data warehousing, master data management, even big data, that permeates all the way through the so-called mid-sized companies as well today. So the more that a company can step up to becoming a data leader, the better off they're going to be, because today data leadership is business leadership, and vice versa. So that's where companies are going to differentiate themselves in the marketplace through their use of data, not their everyday low prices, their supply chain, their great customer service. That's all a given, anymore. It's their data where they'll differentiate themselves. So no matter what size.
Now, you mentioned before you worked with the Global 2000. I'm not familiar with that index, but I've looked at the Fortune 1000. If you're at the 1000 level, you're a $1 billion plus company in revenue.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of revenue was number 2000 on the Global 2000?
Oh, I don't know, but
I mean, probably in the billions as well, I would imagine.
It's in the billions. It's definitely in the billions. This world is run by some really big companies. Yeah.
So it sounds like, from what you do, at least, it sounds like you're talking about $1 billion companies really being able to take advantage of.
Well, I wouldn't. No, you know what? We for example, we adjust for the company's budget and the company's needs. And my maturity model, by the way, for example, if you're mid-size or below, you actually get a one additional point as a bonus in the model. So I don't expect the coffee shop down the street, if it's a solo practice, not Starbucks,
right?
If it's a small practice, I don't expect that to have the same tech footprint as, say, a global giant down the street, say, Walmart or something, right? But nonetheless, they still have data needs.
Sure.
They still should be collecting all their data and getting on top of that and growing their data science out, obviously at a different level, but at some level.
Right. So what's the minimum size company that you work with?
Well, like I say, I mean, I work with some startups. So
the startups, I imagine, have to be well funded enough to be able to store the data, acquire the data, analyze the data, right? It doesn't sound like it's a trivial process, those three items.
No, it's not. It is essential to the business, and it's what businesses are largely about today that are starting up. So yeah, you want to have some millions of funding, that's for sure. But we work with like United Healthcare is a client. These are big, really big companies. France Telecom. I mean, these are really big companies. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, big ones I can see for sure, right? I mean, not only do they have the cash flow to support it, but they also have the transactions, right?
That's right.
Company has tons of data, transaction-wise, service-wise. I'm just kind of wondering, at what point does you said you talked about working with medium-sized companies, right? And the definition of medium-sized companies is perhaps similar to the definition of big data, right? It's always moving.
Yeah.
Like, what's a medium-sized company?
Well, I'm going to let each company decide for themselves kind of what they are, but I don't give a medium-sized company a complete pass in terms of data. In terms of handling their data and getting their data act together. I don't. I believe that it's a competitive force at all levels of business today.
Yeah. But I mean, when you're talking about data, you're talking much beyond the typical CRM data, for example, right?
Yeah. I mean,
orders of magnitude beyond that.
Absolutely. We're terabytes to petabytes now of data that we're collecting, and we're keeping all history now. And we're bringing in third-party data sets, and we're getting it at a very granular level, which we didn't do before. So consequently, the amount of data in this world is just growing exponentially. The numbers are mind-boggling. And the devices out there, you may have heard of the Internet of Things,
right?
Which has to do with devices being censored up
Right.
and
Another
having their
source of
own.
data now.
That's a tremendous source of data now and going into the future. I
Right.
think most people would be very surprised at how many devices have an IP address connected to them.
Right. And as you mentioned before, it's not just the data that a company is generating on its own by providing its services. It's also data that you can acquire and commingle with your own data, right, to give you a fuller picture of what's going on.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a bit mind-boggling thinking about the possibilities.
I mean, it can be for a layman who's not in technology. The world has changed in the past, couple decades tremendously in terms of what it takes, to be successful in business today.
Yeah.
And it's a lot about data.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes even for the smaller businesses, right? And oftentimes when I'm talking to prospective clients, from the simple data perspective, right? And this is, this is like, very simple concept. But I mean, like a lot of businesses don't collect their customer data, right? As simple as that. Right. And that's,
well, yeah. I mean, they're going to miss out.
Yeah.
They're just they're just going to be running on the treadmill in the near future, and possibly it's going to overwhelm them when the competitors are able to actually use that data to their advantage.
Yes, definitely. So, in terms of 2019, what can you share about your 2019 growth plans for your company in terms of sales, in terms of clients, in terms of your service offerings?
Well, still 100% in it.
Okay.
Enjoying it, enjoying every day, and kicking off the year, the tremendous January here of working a lot right now, working a lot with vendors, and getting a lot of great knowledge under our belts as a foundation, because the world has changed, as I say, and the vendors are not sitting still, and it's important for us to bring up-to-date active knowledge to our clients. So we're getting a lot of that in some of the work that we're doing this month. So you're going to see benchmarks, you're going to see reports, you're going to see webinars and white papers and stuff like that coming out of us in this first month. And we have our clients, of course. We love our clients, and we've been with some for a while, and some are new. And but everybody's trying to make data into a competitive asset.
Sure. Can you share some hard targets that you have, the ones that you're comfortable sharing, the percentage revenue growth you're looking to do, the number of new clients you're looking to add, the amount of additional business you want to do with your existing clients, and any sort of objectives that you're looking to accomplish in 2019?
I mean, we want to have a lot of fun, and we want to make a great impact on the clients that we do have. So we don't have hard revenue numbers. I'm not... my clients can rest assured we're not trying to get every last dime out of them. What we're trying to do is serve them well. And to that degree, we hope we take that kind of mentality into the future. I love helping people, and I feel like that's a lot of what I do. I help people in this industry be better, have a better foundation for their business. And let's face it, we enjoy our lives if we enjoy our career, we enjoy our work. And I want to help a lot of people, make a tremendous impact this year, helping a lot of people do just that, because I think I sit on a gold mine for them. And so, I'm just excited every day about the opportunities.
Yep. So what are your plans on the new client development front?
It's going to be, it's going to be the same. I'm the number one global influencer in data warehousing and the number one global influencer in master data management. So I'm out there, and I attract our clients, and I will continue to attract our clients as long as I want. I'm pretty sure of that. And it'll be a lot of the same things. We're not sitting on our laurels. We're not preaching a 1990s dogma about how things should be. Like I say, we're ahead of the game, and our clients like that about us. And we're visionary, but we actually get things done as well. So I just look forward to that. I look forward to another year, be my 21st year in consulting. No time in all those years has it been as exciting as now. And it's always been exciting, but now it's like data is really taking off, and we're really at the forefront of that. So it's just a really exciting place to be.
Sure. So for your marketing then, it's all inbound marketing then, no outbound marketing?
Um, I would say 90+% is inbound. I mean, we have a newsletter, but again, those are warm people that have signed up. So I don't know how you want to, categorize that, but we don't do a lot of outbound, flogging the masses, knocking on doors and all this sort of thing. And throwing the lines out there and doing marketing lists and things like that. I must get 2 or 3 emails a day of people who apparently they're great at doing telemarketing for me, but I just don't.
Right. Why is that? I mean, I imagine can you share how many clients you're working with now in the Global 2000?
We're working with probably 4 or 5 right now.
So
it's enough,
It's enough. Okay. Because there are still 1,995 of them that can potentially use your services, right? And the Global 2000.
Yeah, they could, and some of them will, over time. But I don't need every last client to be happy, and that's what I'm going for. So, of course, I want to make a bigger impact, but I feel like what I'm doing is it's allowing me to do what I want to do.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before that you're the #1 influencer when it comes to data warehousing and the other technical terms you mentioned. Have you found that the inquiries you're getting as a result of that, are you finding that the people who reach out to you are good leads for new business?
Yeah.
Or do you find that many of them that reach out to you, they're just not really a good fit for you?
No, most of them are. I mean, and that's the beauty of this business, which is I'm not working on low percentage. I'm not spending lots and lots of time on RFPs and things like this. When I get called, it usually makes sense because people know me. They know what I'm all about. They know what my business is about. They know what we do. I'm not interested in an RFP that's cast to the wind, 30 different properties. Even though I look at it and go, wow, you know what? I think we would be the very best for them. Unless there's something special that client finds in us, and there's a lot to like if you want to look, but unless there's something special about us that they can articulate, I'm not doing these blind, RFPs or cattle calls, as I call them. I'm working in a very much more targeted fashion, and that's how we work.
Okay. So what would you say are your biggest marketing and sales challenges?
I mean, we are so many things to so many different people. A lot of people are pigeonholed in this industry. They're either data warehouse people, or they're data mart people, or they're data lake people. That's a new term, but it's definitely out there. They're master data management people, and they may or may not be able to fathom the fact that we do all that. And if they have needs in other areas of their business other than maybe what they thought about us at first, that we can do that, and we'll do a great job at it. And by the way, we're probably, might be even better at that, than what you called us for, So just continually getting the word out, I guess. But day to day right now, like this week, there's been none of that. It's been getting the work done, meeting deadlines, and keeping current clients happy.
Right.
And that is perfectly fine. That is priority, right?
Oh, yeah.
You
need the bills. So you said before the biggest marketing challenge is that people don't know that you can do all that might be of interest to them on the data side. Why is that, right? Because I mentioned before that you're the top influencer in that space. What about your business are they not able to see, or not easily able to find? Or
there's a spectrum of understanding of myself and my business out there, and you spend a little time with me, and whether it's in a webinar or you read my writing, come to a talk I give, or I do some consulting with or around you, you get it. But until that point happens, you may be only marginally exposed to me, right? And so you get a perspective that way. And it takes 2 or 3 exposures to get the full picture of what it is that we do, and appreciate that, and just make sure it's right for you, because there's a lot of consultancies out there, but very few of them work the way that we work, which is strategic, truly strategic, and understanding all of these disciplines. And by the way, and this is important, I'm surprised it hasn't come up in the hour, we're not beholden to any individual vendor out there. We do not take any money from the vendors for resell or recommendation. So if you're looking for, Oracle jockeys, that's what you want, because you know what you're doing and you just need some jockeys to do it. We're not that firm, right? We are not in one ecosystem. We're across the ecosystem. From a database perspective, we know Google, we know Microsoft, we know Oracle, we know IBM, we know Actian, we know Vertica, we know several others, Teradata, et cetera, right? And so we're that kind of person. So if your exposure to consulting has been, well, consultants, they're tied to one vendor, and they resell products of that vendor, and they have people that are certified in that vendor products, and we use them when we need some help on the products. Then I have to disabuse you of that to get you to understand what it is that we do, to really introduce you to a strategic firm that gets things done, really. And by the way, I keep saying strategic, but I'd like to say that even these Global 2000 organizations, for many of them, if they have not attended to their information management infrastructure and done a good job at it, the first year of starting to is really still all strategy. There's that much to it. You can't just engage us and then turn it all loose back to programmers that have been doing such and such for a long time, and maybe they're right, maybe they're not right, to carry forward the water in the organization. We help you with that. We help you determine whether that is true or not for your organization, but it's not everyone that can actually execute it. So
right.
I think I've gone full circle on your question, Malcolm, but I wanted to point out that we are not that kind of firm, and we just have to educate the market sometimes.
Sure. 3 last questions for you. Say you're driving between Plano, Texas, and Austin, and the freeways can sometimes get wide open, and it's a 90-mile-per-hour speed limit on some stretches. And there's a billboard on that freeway, and typically people only have 6 seconds to read a billboard. What would be your billboard strategy, your billboard message, your 6-second billboard message?
Well, I'm making that drive tomorrow, Malcolm. So what do you know? I would say, make information into a true asset, not something. Well, I'm starting to ramble, but I only got 6 seconds, 6 words, right? So yeah. I'll stop there, and hopefully I've elaborated enough on that point throughout the rest of our talk.
And I know we kind of touched on this throughout the conversation again, but can you recap again who your ideal clients are and the best way for them to reach you and your team?
Well, our ideal clients are businesses of mid-market and above that already understand that information is important to them, and already understand they may be behind the curve in terms of the possibilities. And they are ready with open arms. And by the way, nobody is fully, that way, but they're ready to do something about it. And we are certainly ready to help them do the right thing about it. And we love it when the client says, come in, look at our data, help us out. We're an open book. But sometimes it's a little more focused, and that's okay too. Right. It's a little more like, well, we want to build a data lake. Can you help us specify that data lake and, give us a business justification for it, and so on and so forth? We're great with that too. So enterprise data needs are basically our ideal clients. Okay.
And what's the best way for them to reach you and your team?
So the website is McKnight CG. It stands for consultinggroup.com. And my email is wmcknight@mcknightcg.com.
Would you perhaps spell out your website domain to make it easy for people to find you?
MC, yep. All right. McKnight, as in Charlie, G as in good.com.
All right, fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today and sharing how you grew your business so fast. Appreciate it, William.
You got it. Thank you, Malcolm.
We've been speaking with William McKnight, the president of McKnight Consulting Group. For other interviews of other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can automate your high-value sales, visit eversprint.com.